Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth and Story, and today for today's daily video is just going to actually be quite a quick little video. I have a friend actually coming into town that she's been my friend for 15-ish plus years, and has moved all around the states, and she is on her way up to visit her brother and is stopping by, and so we can have dinner together and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. But I wanted to share something because I was doing a reading today, and a synchronicity occurred of the mind, and I really felt like it was something that I wanted to share with everybody, because we've been having a lot of fun and enjoy embracing the magical, which I have been just loving. But at the same time, this is the season changing, right? And we are moving into Samhain, where the veil is thinner, and we are for those of us who have lost people, we are moving into the holiday season. So as I've talked about before, moving into Halloween is a big deal for me, grieving wise, because Halloween was Michael's favorite holiday, and then it rolls into Thanksgiving, which is a really big deal at my family, even more than some, because we actually give gifts and things, and then Christmas. So it's like, and the anniversary of his death. And so it's like rolling into these, it just kind of starts to snowball effect. And so all those feelings start to come up, and there's lots of more thinking about these things. And not that it's ever not there, but it amps up. And I also know that there is a couple people in the community who have lost people recently and who are struggling in the grieving process at the moment. And just, people experience pain and loss, and those can rise to the surface and ebb and flow at various different times. But I do personally find the fall to be a bittersweet. It's got both wonderful feelings and experiences for me, and then it's also has the more sadness that can well in as well, kind of rolling underneath the surface of things. And so I was doing a reading, and it was in the context to do with grieving, and the Three of Coins came up in the Marguerite Peterson tarot, which is my go-to deck to use in anything dealing with grieving. And there was other cards and things, but this card in particular stood out. I love the coins because there's often hand and footprints. And this is the thing that really caught me, is that this is a card about entering a new space for her. That's like the first keywords for her in her guidebook. And she really talks about creating a space that functions as a refuge. And it talks about more things than that, but those things kind of pop out, is that sense of having an awareness of your physical space and creating that refuge there. And I think that was such, but it's also about starting something new, taking a step forward into this newness at the same time of needing to let go. So it was very poignant, right, for this card to show up, because we're always in the grieving process, in the process of kind of readapting and taking those steps forward, and learning how to create a new world, a new way of being, and a new way of living in a landscape that is forever changed by the loss. And so, and again, there's a couple other people I know in the community experiencing loss, and so I just had, I had a lot of people on my mind. But what made me think of, in the midst of the reading, it made me think of something that Thich Nhat Hanh had written about his mother, and I literally stopped the reading and I need to go and find this and read this. And so I wanted to share that with you. I'm going to go ahead and light a candle. This is a beautiful candle. This was gifted to me a while ago, but I hadn't lit it because it was so pretty as it is. But I didn't even realize it, but it changes color, and it's so, I don't understand it. I want to dissect it, but look, it has melted down. and there's no, it's just a wax, and it's just that, but it changed something. As soon as you light it, it starts changing. I want to know. I'm very interested to see as it melts down further, like what is in there making it change color, that it instantly happens as soon as I light the wick. It's magic. It's magic. But I am lighting this for, there, you know, again, there are people that I know are suffering from loss. I know that there are some people who are suffering with some really big issues with chronic pain, and just some general healing and well-being for people in general that I want to kind of light this. See, look at, before I even get it to that, just because it got warm, it starts at lighting. It's magic. And you're not even going to really be able to see it because of the camera. Nope. There it goes oranger. Let's see if it will. Goes purple. It's going very orange. There's going into purple. It's really mesmerizing, and you're not going to be able to enjoy it as I am, but that's okay. It's still a candle for all of us. But I want to read this bit by Thich Nhat Hanh, keeping in mind this footprint here. And this is what, I didn't remember this until I started to read it, and then it even talks about this footprint. So pay attention to the footprint. Pay attention to that idea of entering a new space and coming to a new understanding in which everything around you is a refuge. But this footprint is so powerful. Actually, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit closer here while we read this. Now I got to get it to come up again. Be prepared, right? So this is by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk, who is my one person in the world. If I could meet somebody, I would meet him, because I have such strong feelings of connection. I learned so much from him. This is actually from his book, No Death, No Fear, which I, of course, have. I think I have all of his books. And this is a passage from that. The day my mother died, I wrote in my journal, "A serious misfortune of my life has arrived." I suffered for more than 1 year after the passing away of my mother, but one night in the highlands of Vietnam, I was sleeping in the hut in my hermitage. I dreamed of my mother. I saw myself sitting with her, and we were having a wonderful talk. She looked young and beautiful, her hair flowing down. It was so pleasant to sit there and talk to her as if she had never died. When I woke up, it was about 2 in the morning, and I felt very strongly that I had never lost my mother. The impression that my mother was still with me was very clear. I understood then that the idea of having lost my mother was just an idea. It was obvious in that moment that my mother is always with me. I opened the door and went outside. The entire hillside was bathed in moonlight. It was a hill covered with tea plants, and my hut was set behind the temple halfway up. Walking slowly in the moonlight through the rows of tea plants, I noticed my mother was still with me. She was in the moonlight, caressing me as she had done so often, very tender, very sweet, wonderful. Each time my feet touched the earth, I knew my mother was there with me. I knew this body was not mine, but a living continuation of my mother and my father and my grandparents and my great-grandparents, of all my ancestors. Those feet that I saw as my feet were actually our feet. Together, my mother and I were leaving footprints in the damp soil. From that moment on, the idea that I had lost my mother no longer existed. All I had to do was look at the palm of my hand, feel the breeze on my face or the earth under my feet to remember that my mother is always with me, available at any time. I just thought that was beautiful, with the footprints and him talking about that footprint in the damp soil was his mother and his footprint. I thought that was so beautiful. And I also thought it was beautiful because he acknowledged that he grieved for over a year before he was able to have this epiphany. So it wasn't like even him, a Buddhist monk, right, who you think has everything figured out. He suffered terribly. I saw in other parts where he talks about how he really suffered with the loss of his mother, and then was able to come to this epiphany that she was always here. And so I really love that message that those feet that I saw as my feet were actually our feet. Together, my mother and I were leaving footprints in the damp soil. It's just beautiful, and I wanted to leave that little message with everybody out there who has experienced loss. We all have in one way or another, and I'm going to leave this candle kind of going for everybody today, that we just have a little peace and a little even feeling of connection with our loved ones today. So I wish you all an absolutely lovely night, and I will talk to you tomorrow.